This week has gone past very rapidly again, and we find ourselves here working on another podcast, which is quite interesting. But we've gone through a number of different processes to get to this point. It's not been a negative week. The week other people are having problems and they're suffering all kinds of things because of their worries, and they're catastrophizing, and they're basically seeing around them. They're being misled by all kinds of different bits and pieces.
So that's all me, George. Thanks a lot. Now you've had a great week.
No. I know. But we were just talking there because I know you're saying that you're catastrophizing and you're doing various different things. But what we're actually doing at this moment is we're looking at, are we over catastrophizing things and never moving forward, or are we actually discussing things through? And really what we are is on the next step of the journey, because we talked about stations. Sometimes you go through multiple stations to get to your final destination, and you have to rely on the fact that the train has to stop at a certain point, and you may get off, walk around, see what's going on, then get back on again. But one of the great things is that we now can map through our journey of the last 5 years different key stages of what we were doing. And we know that sometimes in the scheme of things, when people look at what we're doing, they kind of go, that's a bit oddball, that's a bit different. But we know, and we just discussed that a few moments ago, that if you were to write a script, a feature film script like we've just done, and then try to get it made, you could actually spend the next 10 years. I know somebody that spent 20 years working on the same project. That is just in stationary mode, and it's what they call development hell. I know that if we'd gone through with our 2 short films, we never would have actually got them made. But we chose a different route, because we said, if we wait until someone gives us permission to do this, we'll never get it made, and it'll get rejected, get it rejected, and get it rejected. In the end, we said, well, what resources do we have? And what we did was we said, well, we've got the cameras we need. We can find the characters, actors to play the characters. Let's have a go and see if we can do it. And we did it with ND, and then we did the same thing. We modified some of the parameters and tried it out again, because what happened with ND was we shot it in 2.5 days, and it was exhausting. And I know it was only 10 minutes. But what we did then was we then did the next one over 4 days, potentially 5 days in altogether. And it was a much more relaxing experience. We had the evenings that we wanted, and we enjoyed it. So we know that model worked compared to the first one. So we have a comparison. We can do this kind of critical thinking process. Well, we learned a lot, because on the second one, something that happened that I never experienced was the fact that we needed to work out what the props were, because it was mainly just come with what we had. And the actors, for me, even on the feature film, the actors all worked out what their change of costumes were. But we weren't working with the same level of actors. We were working with people that wanted to give them an opportunity to do something they never had a chance to do before. And that's what this was all about. So we were learning something new, but we had Dominic on set, who basically was able to say, well, this is what I've seen happen. Why don't we try it? So we did that and worked out a sequence of events that needs to happen with each costume. That worked really, really well. The point is that what we did, each stage had a new iteration, which allowed us to advance forward on the journey. So much so that we're now sitting at this point, the 9th of August, 2024. And it's important to have that, because that's a very important date at the moment. Because what we now have is a feature film script that's not only just been written in its raw state, it's almost at the point where we've done 5 iterations of it, because I'm at number 5 on it. We've gone through it 5 times, done something slightly different. And I'm going through it now and adding all the action in it using my experience. And the next part of this journey is for you to go through it and make sure that I haven't tripped myself up or put myself into little corners with the journey, to make sure as an audience, they get to experience it as it should be. We know that will then provide us with a storyboard, which will provide us with the 52 images that we need to make for an exhibition potentially, or as we say, tickets to be in the process. And we'll be able to schedule potentially 8 to 9 weeks of a shoot, which will have the opportunity for groups of 8 people to come for each of those 9 weeks to experience what it's like to be on a film. That's our objective. It's not the film, but it's to have the vehicle that they can then journey on for a week-long stop to have the experiential holiday. That's the purpose of what we're trying to do. And I think the great thing is, I know that what you were talking about a short time ago, and I've taken up 10 minutes of this already.
I was just going to say that. You've just turned into me totally.
I know.
I haven't even been able to start saying hello.
I'm just reflecting on some of the things that you were talking about, because although it looked as though we've been complaining quite often, we haven't. And it's because of other people's misunderstandings of how things work that they can't see why we've gone on the journey we've gone. But that's why they're going round and round and round in circles, because they can't get off their conveyor belt. But we're not on a conveyor belt. We're on something that's going off into a long journey.
No, what's great is we're reinforcing an awful lot of things in the previous podcast, which is, eat the elephant one bite at a time. Go to you follow every brick on the yellow brick road to Oz. Is another brick on the road, and give it the color you want to give it. And that's what we're doing. We're still on the journey to Oz. It's a winding road, but we're on the road. We found the road. You mentioned about the train or on the stops and the stations. We have a ticket to ride. We've got on the track. We have multiple destinations along the way, but we're on the train. We have a ticket to ride. We said, we're going to make this feature. We're going to make it in this format. We're going to make it as an experiential holiday. We know the number of customers. We know the price point. We know when we'd like to do it. They're all great goals. They're benchmarks. They're milestones. We may miss some of them. And we might have 100 customers looking for 50 spots. The negativity and the catastrophization normally says the first customer. Well, I fear we'll have no customers. But really, I think from all the evidence aside says because every time you speak to anybody, you go, where is it? Can I buy a ticket? How much is it? I'd like to do that. And I know 9 times out of 10, you'd be thinking they're just saying that to placate you, saying that to make you feel good. But we don't know these people. And they're going, where is it? It's not a case of they're going, they're the right customer profile, not the ones that I did measure myself before, whereby because I'm one of those, the complainer, the moaner, the worrier. Oh, why could he do that and I can't do that? And you nearly try and bring a winner down to your own level if you haven't won, where you should be, congratulating them on the effort. I'm looking at the Olympics at the moment and going, how the hell do these people get that amount of motivation to do this, to become top of their country, top of the world, to get up at the crack of dawn and go to bed at, late and fit a job and a career in the meantime? When I'm fitting 9 cups of coffee a day in and 1 hour of thinking about maybe doing something. It is around motivation on a targeted goal to be driven, to be and not because you have to, but because you want to get up and you can't wait to. And I think these people know what they want. They know where it is. They know how to go about getting it. And that's the journey I've been on, and maybe George's been on for the last number of years, is what do you want? What does it look like? And I thought it looked like other things. And now I know, no, it's a film retreat, doing things in this way, not mad stuff. It's this amount. It's the minimum. It's the language account, the minimum value proposition, the minimum viable product. Those two things are slightly different. It's the viable product. We can make that film. We can deliver those services. We can deliver that experience. But the minimum viable value proposition is the value those customers give to that offering, that they're willing to pay and invest their time and their earnings and their money in that experience. They're going to go to Disneyland. You don't want to spend 90% of the time in the queue in Disneyland in the rain, and turns out there's no rides. And it took you forever to get there. It cost you an arm and a leg, and you had a bad experience. So Disneyland didn't change today. It was open, but what it delivered on the day wasn't the value proposition you thought you were getting. So I think where we are now is it has to be a value proposition for ourselves, for our potential customers of the future. It's an investment of our time and their time in this experience. I'm looking forward to it. I know there's 100 workloads that are there. And anyone I talk to says there's 100 jobs, there's loads of work. You're going to be overwhelmed. And in the normal scheme of things, I should be. But I know there's a George. And I know there's others. There are other George avatars out there that as soon as we become more visible in our language and understanding and excitement and passion for what it is we're doing or about to do, others start to pop up out of the woodwork and start to go align with your language.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I think that's interesting is that it's not one, it's multiple things, is we are already visible out there doing stuff, because every time I have a conversation with anybody, I'm constantly talking about the Film Production Academy and telling them what we're doing. And again, Garvin said to me a short time ago, George, that thing that you just did, was that in the role of a deacon, or is that in the role of someone that's part of the Film Production Academy, or is that George Kingsnorth who happens to do the music, or George Kingsnorth? And I went, well, actually, it's George Kingsnorth who happens to be all those things all put together. I'm actually not splitting myself off into these multiple different roles. I'm just being me.
You are one.
This is me. This is how I do this. This is all my interests come into everything I do, because they're ways of actually saying, look, what can I do? How can I do this? One of the things I also enjoy is that I'm a deacon. So I'm a deacon. I get called out to go and do funerals and to go and visit people that are sick. And I get a chance to see people that are having life issues that in some cases are insurmountable compared to what we're doing. But the wonderful thing is that as a deacon, my priorities are family, work, then the deacon. And it's in that order. So we're getting our family situation right. For the first time in life, I think I've had more opportunity to spend time with my family than I ever did when I was working any other kind of job. I fit in what I'm doing work-wise. That is the priority, even more so than deacon, even though at times it looks as though I'm doing more deacon things than I am than the others. But really what's happening is the experience I'm having with other people enriches what we do for the filmmaking, script writing. It helps me to understand how to engage with other people, because I'm getting more socialized than I ever was before. As an editor, I was stuck in a room like this. Probably, in fact, I've got all my books in this room at the moment. Usually as an editor, I was stuck in a room that had nothing on the walls, just me and this computer. And occasionally I got to see the director and the producer. And I had to slog my heart out to work on various different projects within certain budgets to get certain things done. And then all of a sudden you had a deadline that you killed yourself to meet that deadline. Your family didn't get to see you and they wondered who you were when you turned up into the door, only to be told by the producer as you came within an hour of thinking you'd finished the project and you could take a breath, that they've suddenly given you 10 hours extra time through the night to finish this project. And you're sitting there, where am I going to get the resources to do that? We're not doing that. We're realizing that there are important parts. The family is important. Having those moments where I go out with my mum, you go out for your cups of coffee. Those cups of coffee that you're going out are your socialization away from the world that you're in here, where you're trying to figure things out. There, you're having a chance to talk to other people that have their problems. You might find solutions for them, or it's up to them whether they take it. But you're seeing how other people's lives work. And what we're doing is we've come up with a formula for what we're trying to do that fits in all those things, allows us to do the stuff. And do you know what? My wife kind of sits there and says, how come you can have, when you hit your head hits the pillar, you're asleep and you don't wake up until 8 hours later and you're up enjoying life. And I am enjoying life, even though I meet death at times and I meet other activities that are going on. I'm enjoying and cherishing all those experiences that I'm having. And as a filmmaker, as an artist, because I do multiple things, what Garvin is giving us as the opportunity is to visualize the art forms I've ever done. One, write it down. We've written a script. And like a comic, we then go off and create these canvases. And initially, it's going to be a painting. We're going to use paint. Then it's helping us visualize the way we want to shoot it using a camera. So it's a very natural process. It's just that we're going grander than most people. But I think that's also opening up opportunities for other people to participate in what we're doing. But we're not having to listen to other people who seem to think they know better at what we're doing. We've done the research. We've spent a long time doing the research, bouncing the ideas backwards and forwards. We've listened to the advice that people are giving us, and quite often we've found out that advice has flaws because of the perspectives that people are coming from. And it's not that we're big-headed and know better. It's just that we're testing things out. We're trialing things. We're seeing whether it works. And we're doing little small tests every day to see whether or not Does this work? Does this work? Is this worth pursuing? If it's not worth pursuing, then we don't go down that avenue. In other words, what it means is that we don't spend a lot of time and money and effort going in a certain direction that will actually belly up. And we've seen loads of filmmakers that do that. They've got their dream of making this fabulous movie that will win them Oscars. Oscars don't mean anything, right? It's how to put the A, B, C, and D together so that you can make the thing to go off and then repeat it and repeat it and repeat it again. That's what we're doing, because we want people to understand the process that we're going through to get to this, because they want to go on a similar sort of journey with their own project. We're not going to make their project, but we're going to help give them ideas that if they come on this journey, they can go off and do their project at a later date. But what we're also doing is we're showing them a process that allows them to enjoy life a bit better.
Actually,
enjoy life.
Yeah. While you were talking there, that's what I was thinking. It's a Wonderful Life. It might be a film out there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the character is George.
Yeah. And what it is we in our preamble, we were starting to talk about, problems and solutionizing. And sometimes I have enough of my own problems and solutions. Because I can come up with 50 solutions and potential solutions that I don't have to wait for any particular problem. It's over catastrophization and over solutionizing. And most of the time, the first thing you thought of would have done, for what it was. Yeah. Now, I also have a probably a very, very bad habit of other people's problems, or what I perceive other people's problems to be, and what they should be doing, how I see it. And now that I'm reflecting back on other conversations with other individuals, and I think they're wrong, this and the other, but they don't see things how I see things, and they can't process the same way. And therefore, what it seems like me trying to force my help to them, then on their side, it seems as if you're undervaluing their job, their life, and what they've been doing today, successfully or unsuccessfully or otherwise. You're diminishing and devaluing them, even though I think I'm communicating a certain way as to try and, if you do this, this will make your life better, this will help, and you don't have to be doing that, you could be doing the other. Where if I wasn't there at all, they'd be just getting on with it. I have a problem, here's the solutions I come up with. If I can't come up with solutions, I need to talk to someone else. That's what George was saying earlier on. An awful lot of, if you talk about it, someone else might have the answer. And most of the time, of all my overthinking for years, is never going to solutionize the solution that's required for the problem at hand. The answer lies with other people, in talking, in professionals, in asking for advice or asking for help. And therefore, that's usually, I am a biggest sinner of that, whereby I try and do it myself in the lack of information and knowledge. And I think, because there's a Google, you'll get halfway there and a half arse there, in my opinion, most of the time. Because sometimes it's worth paying the price of the money for the value to get rid of this problem that's taking up most of our lives. And there's a lot of things in my life that I give too much weight to, that if they weren't there, what would you be doing? You'd be living a wonderful life. And sometimes I was going on a journey the last few months ago, I need to simplify. And actually the gas thing is the simplify journey was actually removing an awful lot of the things where what I thought by getting rid of them, I'd be simplifying my life, where actually you weren't meant to get rid of them. You were meant to solve, to overcome what was going on in order to empower it, to enrich it, to open up the next door. So that led me to post Lead Beyond the Edge, or From the Edge, Frederica Murphy's book there, one of our podcasts, going, it's this comfort zone thing. It's not get back in the box. If you get back into the box, you go, it doesn't exist. If I don't look, it goes away. And there's an awful lot of that. And I'm going, no. That's the edge. That's the edge of comfort. You're not comfortable because you don't have the immediate answer. But it's not step back into the box. It's move forward, engage, inform, educate, ask, communicate, and reach out and break out. So we're about to break out of the box into a shorter feature jump of, if I didn't think it was hard enough last year with the short, now we're doing a 10X. And if we didn't think a feature would keep you busy, let's do 52 7-foot paintings as well. And if that doesn't sort of kill you, we'll do 4 jobs on the side too. And am I being overwhelmed? No. The word we used earlier on was, my sister was saying, are you coming up with 4 bigger things to distract you from the obvious? So you have an excuse on 10 excuses as to why you're not achieving what I said you're going to do. And whereas what I was realizing, the very things we're talking about are all interconnected. They're all the same thing. There are slightly different functions within a business. This is production. That's sales and marketing and business development, PR, communication tools. This over here. So all these jobs have to exist in certain ways, and they all belong to us, and they all have to be done to a certain level. And if there's only us, we got to do them, because if we leave anyone out, that's the point of failure. But on our journey, we can do them in parallel, or we can do them one after another. We know what we have to do in a critical path order. And everyone has to do this. And I told my sister, you're an artist, you're a fine artist, you're a painter, but you've no sales, you've no customers, and you're afraid of a show. And that was what she came. And then as soon as I said, you need 20 paintings, she got overwhelmed, goes, that's I don't know what the first one is. Now I got 20 to have a show. And that's exactly what this is. Well, I got 52 7-footers, and we have 6 weeks or 9 weeks of production when we have 20 actors and 50 locations. And it's overwhelming, but it's exciting, and it's living. And that's where we have got our mental health. We can't afford all of this. No one's paying us a damn thing. And if you looked at those negatives, why all of what we're talking about, we don't have to do.
But the thing is, I mean, what's interesting that you're talking about there is that no one's actually asked us to do this. No, but we want to do that. And there's something inside us that is actually egging us on. And you were talking about athletes earlier on. Each athlete is curious to want to do something. Like, for example, I have a cousin called Summer Onley. Summer suddenly got enticed by a boyfriend to do mixed martial arts, I think it is. Okay. She's just become a world professional in mixed martial arts. She took it up for a laugh. No one asked her to do it. Well, someone dared her to do it, and she just thought, "Oh, I'll have a crack at that." And and all of a sudden, she's winning. She's winning competition. She's all over Facebook and everything. She's now become a professional. She was a graphic designer, I think, beforehand. That's what she was doing to generate. And all of a sudden, she's given that all up, and she's being successful in the journey that she's gone. Like all the athletes that were in the Olympics at the moment. And some of them started off when they were 5. They didn't need to generate an income at 5. They just had this notion that they were interested in something, and they have just gone on a journey. Funny enough, that's what the journeys that I've been on. That journey, because it looks as though it's multiple journeys, but it's actually the same journey. There's a spiritual journey that we all go on, regardless of what we think we believe and everything. There's a spiritual journey that we end up going on. There is a calling. It's a vocation. We're called to do something. Whether we ignore that or not, it depends on where we go. And sometimes when we ignore the journey, we end up having more problems to encounter until we accept what we're actually being called. So it's basically, you get called to do something, so whether you're not, you accept.
So you're hearing voices, George, is what we're saying. Yeah.
Well, in some cases, it actually quite often it is, because one of the voices that I heard that came through to me was a message on LinkedIn, with somebody challenging me to have a chat 5 years ago, and I took the bait. I thought, well, there's an interesting one. I'm looking for somebody. I want to reach out. I want to do something. I'm a bit isolated. I need to go beyond my comfort zone. And there was somebody asking me to do that. And I thought, well, okay, let's see what happens. In the middle of the conversation I had with them on Skype, I suddenly went, this guy's interesting to talk to. Do you fancy being interviewed? And I went down to Thomastown and interviewed you. And that's where the journey started. And actually, I sat outside your gates, the ones that are currently in GVH, and I rang a number and got through to the Garda station. And the funny thing is, the girl at the other end of the phone suddenly said, "How did you get this number?" And I said, "Why?" I said, "This is the one that my friend gave me to come down and meet him." He says, "Well, this is the Garda station, and this telephone's in the basement, and no one ever comes down here." I went, "Oh my goodness, have I been conned to come down to Thomastown for some unknown reason? What's this all about?" But it wasn't. But that was just the fear starting up. It was just the funny thing to find that the Garda is in our story in a different guise, and it turns out you've got a friend that's high up somewhere in Gar. But it's just you don't know where the journey's going to lead. And one of the things that is, we went on a photo walk a few weeks ago, And there was a door that opened up, a red door. And I looked inside and, oh, look, there's some stairs and some very interesting things. And I took a photograph. And one of the things that's been very important throughout my life is doors opening and doors closing. And sometimes you have to take up the courage to go through the door to see where it may lead and what opportunities come out of it. From that has turned up a little mini exhibition, has now turned up a bigger exhibition, which links into all the things that we're now doing, which I hadn't thought about until you started talking about your 52 Jokers Wild and the canvases that we were doing. And don't forget, you've already started that journey because you got 6 canvases produced beforehand, which we've used at times as images to promote what we're doing within the room. So we've been building and building upon that. Those were the foundations that we built. And we're now constructing something which we were called to do. And I think that's it. We've been called to arms in one sense. You called me or sent out this thing, and you sent out a calling into the universe, or whatever you like to call it, LinkedIn, as the case may be. And this idiot here applied, just got involved. But no, I was going through something at the same point. It just so happened, it resonated with me that there was somebody else saying, how about if you as filmmakers, what we're going to do? And I'm getting into this industry from an accountancy point of view. And I suddenly went, well, I know that most of what we need to do is based around what accountants think. Otherwise, it's not viable. Let's have a chat with this guy and see what comes up. 130 or 40 podcasts later, 2 short films, a number of courses that we've actually written, and an interesting journey later with meeting some amazing people. We're here now with the prospect, because we have a film to suddenly put together and use whatever skills we can to market that to people around us. We don't understand all of it, but we don't need to. All we need to do is take that first step. And the first step you took was you didn't believe that you could write a script. You've now written a short script. You've now written a feature film script. You've now got 52 canvases outside to be painted on, which 5 years ago were just a basic idea. You didn't know where that came from. You thought no one asked you for this, but I bet in a few years' time, it'll all become clear that we were guided in this direction and asked to come on this journey. We just had to accept it and take the work that was necessary. But it is hard work, but it's work that is enjoyable and gives us all a sense of purpose of what we're doing. And our excitement in doing this is allowing us to share it with other people. And that really is what it's all about. It's sharing with other people. And I'm getting confidence through the little rosary group, with the photography group, 2 areas of interest that sort of bring people together and allow them to share their views. And it's not separate things. They're all connected. Well, probably because I'm the one that connects them. But like you with your groups of people, you're the one that gels everybody together, who are suddenly interested in what we're doing. And the closer we get to this being realized, the more and more that they'll come on board. And just going back to that for a moment, with the photography group, most of them wanted to be involved in a photo walk, but they didn't know, they were too frightened to take the step to be the organizer. And because I wanted to do the same thing, and when I responded to Analog Wonderland, they said, well, George, we haven't got anybody in Northern Ireland to do this. Do you fancy taking it on board? And I went, well, there's no difference between this and what I did setting up a class to teach people photography or filmmaking. Yeah, why not? And we're going to be doing, we've done this with the 2 movies. Yeah, it's not going to be a problem. So I followed the processes and procedures and went through it. And the 10 people that came out with me were so thrilled that I took the lead, and again, didn't put enough parameters in there that they could enjoy the day. They all had a laugh. We all got our films back, and all of a sudden, because of one of the connections that came through that, which we hadn't any idea, was a library, the Robinson's Library Museum, suddenly said, well, look, you've come to photograph this. Do you fancy having maybe 8 or 9 images to be shown as an exhibition? I took those images up on yesterday. That's where it was. Yesterday, it's all happening so fast. And because of a meeting with the dean of the cathedral next door, which we also photograph, he suggested, well, why don't you have a 6 weeks exhibition next year based on the theme of architecture? So now I'm inspiring these guys to come up with the same thing. It could open up possibilities of what we're doing. And I think it's a door has opened. We've taken the courage to go through it and not let our fears get the better of us. And we're seeing fruits start to come out of it just because we've taken that opportunity to go out and try. That's what we're doing now with this film.
Now we're leading, we're the word lead. So I hope God you cut the coughs out now. We're back again because I didn't get a drink of water in beforehand. But I will leave it in. We leave it in. That just shows the lack of speaking. I can speak forever. As it's when I stop, I cough. And it's like the car, the diesel engines. You have to warm it up first and start it. But the old globe plug. But the leading yourself from the edge, back to for each for three, because effectively, and that's what we're doing. We're not following anymore. My problem before in the past was following. And following, if the others don't know where they're going and you're following them, then you've less of an idea or a clue. So most of the time we're being led, we're following, but then we're not in control. We're actually minimizing, and we're given responsibility or away, or it's even blame culture in mine. But well, they said they led, then it's their fault if it all went wrong. There's a little bit of that in me. But now I'm going, what we've done is we're leading ourselves. And we had a couple of our podcasts were on this type of subject. We've led ourselves to here, and we're responsible. Whatever happened, it's all our own fault. And now we're going to lead ourselves on the rest of the journey. And we kept on saying, others can follow, or we're trying to de-risk it for them, because there are leaders and there are followers, and an awful lot of people don't want to take the whole risk. They don't know it. They wouldn't mind being involved. They can step in and step out and back again. But for the continuity and the sustainability, something has to be in the middle, creating the flow and the machine and maintaining it and directing it. And so in that machine, the machine is us organics going for our timeline on this planet while we're able, fit and mentally and physically able, and maybe even financially able. We're going to lead ourselves on the journey that gives us meaning and where our passion can lie. And what we are, when what you were saying is, we're open. We're not going alone. What we're building is the carriages. What we're building is the doorways. We're saying there's new doorways that other people and communities of and can get access to and experience, or watch from afar, or watch from inside looking out, according to what they pay or what they don't pay, and help. And so it's back to this community aspect. There's an artist community. There's a filmmaking community. There's the consumer community of those that want to watch the outputs of the art and the film. There's the patriots, the Patreons, and there's those that want to experience something that they never experienced before, that may have an interest in, and it's just something unique and unusual. So, but it has to exist. It has to be there. It has to be real enough for others to understand. I know George and myself we're actually visionaries, but and we're trying to take it from ideation and vision to a first pass reality, so others can actually understand and interact with. And the difficulty I'm normally having is explaining the vision to people that don't have that capability to visualize, and then they're filtering it based on their understanding and lack of knowledge and experience of, and then arguing the facts as to why you're wrong and you shouldn't be doing it. So that's the problem. Don't engage in those conversations. It's not they're the wrong customer. You don't have to keep on explaining yourself to others. You might have to explain yourself to the wife. I can't get away from that one. But beyond that, we have to explain yourself to each other on a regular basis. And that's what myself and George do in these podcasts, in our weekly and every other daily meetings is, are we okay? Is the vision aligned? Does that still make sense? Is it worth doing? Give it a ranking and go, because there's a priority of what needs to be done in what order, because we can't do everything. And what gives us the most value based on doing what step in what order. So when we look behind, we've got a bunch of yellow bricks and they seem to be going in the right order, and someone put them together well, and they're not higgledy-piggledy. They're actually, when they're there, they make sense. And what little bit people then see and look at, they understand.
while you were talking, and the things that you've just been talking about there were quite interesting, because we were talking about purpose, and key words that were coming up for me, because Garvin was initially saying, George, are you doing it as George? Are you doing it as Deacon? Are you doing whatever? And I said, I'm doing it all together. And one of the things that I found that's really important is we're talking about trust. We're actually talking about faith, and we're talking about purpose. And one of the things I think we've done is that we've managed to break away from the slavery of what ordinary work does to human beings. So there is something psychological, philosophical, and quite profound in the journey that we're going. And we've actually, there is a calling. Garvin says it's somebody in your head, and from religious people, it's because they get called in a certain direction and they've followed that through. The challenge always has been and I'm reading stuff that's in the Bible, and I know that's not maybe where Garvin's going, but the stories are there. And the stories of the Israelites coming out of Egypt because they were slaves. And every time they did what Garvin was talking about, they complained, oh, we were better off there as slaves, making those dirty bricks and all that kind of stuff. Why can't we go back to that, And they gave up on the dream of a place to go where they could do the things that they wanted to do. And we in our lives have been forced to take up certain trades and have been used and abused in those trades. I mean, Garvin had done a job last year or the year before where even on the first day he thought he was going to get sacked because the person just treated him really, really badly. No respect of what knowledge that Garvin could actually bring to that job to make it, feasible. And he was able to it took him time to understand what the process is. We all take time. It needs patience to understand the process. And unfortunately, these people just wanted him to come in and wave a wand and do something magical. And because wasn't what he was going to do, they got annoyed with him. And we found that, I find that as well. I mean, I've gone into something that says, oh, you're an artist. Why didn't you come up with da-da-da-da? And you kind of go, well, hang on, that's not the process. That you don't do things like that. It's not magic. We don't do magical things. But what we do is we follow a discipline. And Garvin's discipline has come through accountancy. My discipline has come through learning and understanding how the filmmaking process works. And it's all about producing a product. It's all about producing something. But part of that process is also how to treat people in a respectful way, the way that we would like to be treated. I mean, I've gone through multiple jobs. I worked on a construction site in Bournemouth. I always seemed to work with people that were always difficult, but I got on well with them for some reason. But there are people like, for example, they were irradiating or aerating water. And we were told to go across a plank. And we asked the question, what would happen if we fell in? And some people went, oh, if you fall in, it's water, you could swim. And somebody else actually said, well, no, you'd drown. Well, we went, well, what do you mean? Well, they're putting air through it. There's no buoyancy. You would sink. And of course, because it's water, you'd drown. So our lives were being put at risk. And basically, we were being told if you didn't do it, you're off site. You were getting kicked off. You were being treated as though you were nothing. And I think that's something we've experienced in all of our jobs. So no matter who comes on the journey with us, we treat them with respect and dignity. And we know that they're going through their problems and their issues. But if we treat them with dignity and respect, then they as a human being can be lifted up and they will feel as though they have something to offer and they're being treated as something worthwhile, a human being. So that's part of the journey. So in a way, we've been equipped with the way to treat people, to respect people. And the first thing we had to do was to respect one another in the skills that we had to bring to this. And I think for the very first time, I've actually enjoyed a process that I'm going through with Garvin in writing this script, because we're not being put down by one another. That, I mean, I know that I've done things with other people, and the very first thing that's happened is they want to get the better over you. So they put you down, they knock you down. You're not worth anything. Know your place, because of that sort of slave mentality type thing that's always prevailed. But we've been given a certain freedom, and that freedom has challenges, because it looks as though we're doing something odd and out of this world. And it is odd and out of this world. And there's nothing wrong with that. But most people feel that they have to conform to a system that will basically, for most of their lives, if not all of their lives, put them down under a foot, crush them, knock out all their personalities, all the beautiful things that's inside that person. Whereas we're being given an opportunity to say, no, hang on. What we can do now is if we follow a certain discipline and break down this project to its basic elements and look at what needs to be done so we can manage this, what looks as though it's impossible can suddenly become possible. And you've done that with the 52 paintings that you got. You don't know what the end is, but you don't need to. You just needed to do the first part, which was to prepare those boards so that any possibility could be added to them at some point. That can now happen. A few weeks ago, that couldn't because they weren't there. They hadn't materialized. What we're doing is we're materializing. We're using what's in this world. We're using the ideas that we've been given, things that have been put out in our head. We have no idea where sometimes I have my suspicions, if you like. I have my ways of thinking where they've come from. Garvin has his way of thinking where they've come from. It just so happens that we are working together because we can work around the parameters that each of us have. And that also puts in those kind of checks that you sometimes need to make sure that you're, restrictions that sometimes you need to have. And we build a framework. Garvin's physically built 52 of them. We can now visualize what's going to go on them, but we're going to take those ideas from a script that we're currently writing. We're fine-tuning that script. That'll allow me to do this storyboard. And from that storyboard, we'll be able to produce 52 montages of images that show 52 sections of our movie that other people can then start to say, whoa, actually, that's going to be a reality. We're now seeing this as a potential sequence of events that are going to go on. And we want to be part of that, and that's what we're offering. We're going to be calling other people and offering them an opportunity to come on a journey, an experience of a lifetime that they will never potentially have ever again. It's going to be different to any other one that they'll go on, but they will be enriched because they'll meet other like-minded people who've gone on that journey, who want to share their memories with them. Just like the photographers that I've just met up with that are doing that. All of them wanted to come together to share their passion in doing film photography. And we gave them a platform, a frame to work on. And they've gone off and done stuff. And all of a sudden, just because of opportunities, doors that have opened to us, they now have a chance to have their work exhibited, which they never even dreamed of. But they never knew because they hadn't been given that opportunity. So we're now creating an opportunity because we're trusting, we're having faith in our process. We've been given a discipline to work with through our lifetimes of experiences, and we're now making that come to fruition. We're racers on a journey, racing to the end. We haven't met the finishing line yet because that's not where we are. We're on a certain part of the track to get there. But if we keep on using our discipline, we will be able to successfully finish that race and get to the end. And our purpose will have been identified by the end of that as well. So we're actually talking about St. Paul's letters to various different people. He's calling other people. So
we're actually talking about the Matrix as far as I talk.
We're also talking about the Matrix as well. But isn't that interesting? Because all those philosophies suddenly come together within that, which indicates why we're being called from different places. And there is a purpose. It will be a monetary one because, whether it's universal, whether it's God, in my play, they know that we need the income to survive on. They know what our needs are, but they're going to make those needs come to fruition for us if we just trust in what we're actually doing and keep on. And the naysayers, there'll be plenty of them. In fact, the closer we get to it, because our storytelling process, as the person goes on the journey, the closer they get to the finishing, they get the harder and harder parts to actually do. But we will get there if we just trust in what we're actually doing.
Well, I'm just thinking of the 6 paintings at the back, and
yeah,
someone coming in now and listening to this one doesn't even know about them. Go back to the other 140 episodes, have a look at the video vlog version of it. You'll see a couple of images, big 6 foot by 6 foot. images, but what they are is the 52 Jokers Wild concept. And like, I've just gone to number 6 for a moment, because if you get to number 6, it says game over, and then it says level up. It's not that it's game over. It's that is a game. That game is over. Not life is over. There's going to be many games. And now it's, if you've done that game, you need to level up. You need to take on, you need to go back to the beginning and then go beyond your comfort zone again. Because you're now in this game over, you're comfortable again. And what it's really saying is it's time to make yourself uncomfortable and grow and go back to the beginning and level up and then go on a new journey. And that's what's happened here. We went from podcast to short to feature, and then to go and to let's say installation. And 2 years from now, that's all going to be done. And it's going to do it again. And it's going to be a different story, a different genre, different customers, different people, different cast, different crew. It's going to be hard. It's going to be different. It's going to be, we'll take on more and we'll level up. And I'm going to grow and I'm going to be uncomfortable. If I'm not uncomfortable, there's something seriously wrong. Because then you're doing it in the contains and confinement of making it the minimum nothing it could possibly be, because there's zero risk and no reward. So actually, you got to be uncomfortable. It has to make you grow. You have to keep on leveling up. And the only game over to should stop you doing that is you're dead. But maybe you get to do that again. We don't know if it's the reincarnation, go to heaven. But even then, it ain't game over. It's still level up time.
Well, to get to some of those places, it's not meant to be easy. It's not about sort of laying down and giving up. It's about taking.
Well, you can die anytime. You can get up if you want.
Well, you can. But yeah. I think, the key thing is if, look, each one of us something could happen to us today. We know that. But if we can take the opportunity of making the most of what we've been given and use it to our best abilities and try with all the effort, even if it does turn out that today is the last day, then basically we've done what we could do. We've been faithful to what we've been trying to do. We've believed in what we're doing, and we're just trusting the resources that we've been given that will allow us to accomplish. Because we wouldn't have been sent on this journey in the first place if it wasn't possible. And I believe that. I do think that life, everything is not done. It's not done for nothing. It's done for a reason. And that reason is to help. We're helping other people. That's our motivation.
All we're doing is helping ourselves. By definition, we're helping other people. I'm helping you. You're helping me. We're both other people. Yeah. And on that basis, you've already succeeded.
And we're also giving other people hope, believe it or not, because all those people that we've worked with so far, they had dreams as well, which we were allowing them to fulfill by expressing themselves by being either actors or, cinematographers or musicians, which I got the chance to do as well. Or I mean, look at Alan. Alan one day came on set suffering the way he was suffering because of all the illnesses he was. And all we had to do to him to say was, well, actually, in your certain circumstances, why didn't you mentor Garvin in the sound? And his face lit up, because all of a sudden he wasn't going to have to lug around all this gear. The weight was taken, the burden was taken off of him.
And the physical weight.
And was given to you. So you had the burden. But you suddenly enjoyed it because all of a sudden you were being given permission to be to do the sound work. And, if it wasn't for the sound that we got, I wouldn't have been able to turn it into the film that we had, because we didn't have to replace all that sound. We used the actual sound that was recorded on the days that you recorded that sound. And that's important as well, because it gave you the confidence to know a little bit more about what's going on. We don't have to be overloaded with knowing everything, just enough to be able to achieve the task at hand. But that simple little thing. And that's what we're going to be doing with the 8 people that come on each week, which potentially could be 64 people if we do it over 8 weeks or whatever it is. And we will have an opportunity to give people the permission to do things they normally wouldn't be given permission to do, to realize that they can do these things and they can do it in baby steps and gradually build their skills up if they want to go on further to do that, or at least feel that they've accomplished something. Now, one of the lovely things that we're doing was ND's been in a load of film festivals for nearly a year now. And I think it's got a few more opportunities with film festivals. But within the next 2 or 3 months, we will be able to release that on YouTube and use that to promote what we're doing and show it to people and start to find another audience for it. And not long after that, we'll be able to do the same with GVH because they've won awards. They've accomplished what we wanted them to do on IMDb to prove that they are something, they actually exist. And now what we can do is start to find another audience and share it with them. We don't have to make money back from that. That's not the purpose. They're part of a marketing tool that we want to promote for the feature films that we're doing. They demonstrate we know what we're doing. We have a little documentary I think we need to make, which again goes through this purpose that we're doing here, which we can then get into film festivals and win awards through another direction. But that also enhances that the processes that we're doing are valid. And I'm thinking of repurposing another film I've got and getting that into a film festival. So again, all promoting what we're doing, the end game of the journey that we're actually on, which I think is very important. And it's not. We're not being selfish. It's not about selfishness. It's about how we can share what we've learned with other people and help enrich their lives in some form or fashion, and give them, because there are so many people out there who, with the way that the world's going, which is the negativity that's going on, they're losing a sense of hope and purpose and what it's all about. All the technologies that are taking them away. And yet we're using older techniques which allow us to use modern technology in a way that it gives people, I don't know, just that way of living life and seeing what they can do back to the old days. And we're not being nostalgic. It's just that we like to do things, and the way we do things is a tactile thing. But we've been doing things through our mobile phones or through the internet. I know we're having this conversation through an internet, but we're actually going off and doing things. And those things that we're doing give us a sense of purpose. If you take all that thing away from us and don't allow us to do things, then we don't have any purpose. And the funny thing about that is that's the process I'm going through with the script. I'm writing all the actions that the actors have to do so that they kind of get a sense of what's my aim from this part to this part? What's my journey to go across? What's the story arc? How does this character develop? And we need to give them actions to do and tasks to fulfill so that they can accomplish and come up with a rich performance in the films that we're doing. So, and that's an exciting part because we didn't do that with the first two shorts, but we now have an opportunity to work with our actors to bring other things to it and give them enough information to give them scope to develop their craft on film.
No, very exciting. So I heard end game and game over, and the game. Play the game. Yeah. We're players, and that's what it comes back to again. I'm looking forward to going play. It's no longer work.
Yeah,
I know it'll take tasks and resources, but it's a bit more playful, and I'm enjoying life a lot more than I used to do, and I'm looking forward to doing an awful lot of what we're talking about. And the thing is, I am aware of others out there that are going through very, very tough times. I'm in the industry in question, but we're not trying to. I don't mean to, and we don't mean to go, oh, look at us and what we're doing, and you could do this too, because they can't and they won't, and there isn't those. It's not that this show, oh, we're doing this, you're not, you can do this. It's not that type of thing. It's more find purpose. It's more find someone else. Like a problem halved is a problem shared is a problem halved, and it's not about problems. It's like most of the time stuff shouldn't exist. We're doing the wrong thing. It might just take someone to push off. Stop doing that. For God's sake, just stop doing that, and maybe do something else instead, and anything else. And that permission even is most of the time we're chained and shackled based on a bill, and I'm very conscious of that. 99% of people probably cannot consciously stop because they cannot get out of the bill and don't know how to change because they can't stop long enough to investigate and instigate change. Yeah. And therefore, it's very, very easy for us to say, just stop. And they look at what you have and go, well, they can't stop, but they need to stop. And they need to work on finding out how to stop as opposed to staying in the chains of that box. That it's like you're saying that madness thing. You're going, if it stays the same, you can see the future. The next 30 years, 20 years, it's not going to change. It incrementally change. Unless if you want the world to change, you've got to go out into the world. You cannot stay in the same box and expect it to change. It won't. It'll get worse is what's going to happen. So we've got rid of the box. We're gone out in the world. We're using the skill sets of the past. We're evolving and growing and leading ourselves into uncomfortable spots. Not uncomfortable in terms of what it is, but it's just not comfortably sorted. It needs to be built. It needs to be parameterized. It needs to be problems need to be overcome. Issues needs to be solved. They need to be solutionized, and the solutions implemented, and then move on. And so. I'm not looking to work. Gee, everyone I'm talking to, I'm nearly come up to 60. You're already 60, and they're talking about retiring. And I'm going, haven't started.
Yeah.
In terms of the haven't started, I'm talking about is on the passion, on the journey. I mean, if we do this once, I want to do 10 times more. I want to keep on doing it until I just wake up dead. Because if that's what it is, then why would you want to ever stop? If you can be creative nonstop, involved with new people, creatives and communities, it's the only reason I want to stop in that journey is if I'm physically, mentally incapable of moving on. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to the day I'm so incapacitated, physically feeble, and totally unable to move on. Because that's where I now am. But the way I'm going to get there is I'm going to be 107, cryogenically frozen or something. It shouldn't be because we were put down, shut down, and mentally, took apart and physically abused. And no, we can only do what we can do. We can only be an example to ourselves and others. And I cannot be saying to others, look, you can do this too. We've no idea their circumstances. All we can be is an example to ourselves, and hopefully it might help us.
Well, one of the things I think that's quite useful about what we're doing now is that we are both prepared to give of ourselves to what we're doing, which means we're making sacrifices. Okay, but they're not sort of overly hurtful sacrifices. But we know that if we do things in a certain way and follow that certain discipline, we can give this. And we are giving. At some point, we hope there will be a return, but it may not. I think it will give us enough to keep on going, and that's the vehicle, that's the engine that we're trying to actually create. But we want to give to those people that come with us, and we want to make sure that we've prepared enough through our discipline, through the model that we've created, so that they can get the experience that we'd like them to have. So again, it's giving. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give. We're not trying to take, because there are other people that come involved and they've taken from us, and we've actually felt exploited. We don't want others to feel exploited by what we're doing. We want to give them opportunities to be able to basically feel as though they are what they should be, human beings that are respected and given a certain sense of decency. So there's something about that giving. And when you have people that are constantly complaining, is it because they've given so much they've got nothing left? Or is it that they're so reserved they don't want to give in the first place and they just can't find an opportunity to take from other people? Now, I don't know. But that's something. And again, one of the lovely things about even exploring those kind of ideas within this kind of podcast is that helps us develop ideas that we can explore through the films that we want to make later on, that we want to give other people opportunities through. So there is something in that, and it's a very positive way. I mean, we talked about where the other podcasts negative in what we were talking about. But in this podcast, what we've tried to do is turn things around a bit more and look at the positive aspects of what we're trying to do, which again I think motivates us and keeps us going and gives us that sense of energy to keep on going, and is exciting. Actually, I'm finding that very exciting. There are problems that we're having to go through each individually, and we're being hit by those, almost on a daily basis. But the hope and the trust that we have in the project that we're building is keeping us going through that tirade of storms that we keep coming against, and actually gives us a sense of purpose of why we're doing what we're doing. So I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, I'm going to end in the last sentence because we'll keep on going forever because we're so giving of our time.
Yeah. But
I just remembered another one of, I said this before in a different podcast, ships were not meant for safe harbor. They're meant to set out to sea.
Yeah.
So we're set. We've left the harbour behind. We're out at sea. There's storm clouds rising. There's the Titanic out there. There's fog. We said all this before, but we're not looking for the Titanic. We're looking for the super yachts. We're looking for adventure. And we got our dolphin-friendly sharks, and all those are out there as well. If you want to refer back to earlier podcasts for those little chit chats, but looking forward to more. The same. Looking forward. It ain't game over. It's play again. And that's it. I've chucked another bunch of coins in the virtual little coin slot, and we're going. It's continue here. Get some more time. Keep playing, and like so. We're players, and I'm enjoying the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, folks, thanks for listening to us through this part of our show all the way to the end. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe to whatever we find this on, and share it with other people, because that is part of what we're doing, is sharing. So share the stories that we're talking about with other people, and maybe if there's ways of commenting on whatever, comment or interact with us on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, wherever you get to see this, and just comment about what your experiences are and whether you think we're going in the wrong direction. Are we being completely mad about what we're doing? But I don't think we are. But let us know anyway, and we love to hear from you. And maybe at some point you'd love to come on the journey with us to experience.
Buy a ticket to ride. There will be plenty in the future. Yes,
absolutely. Thanks very much, everybody, and hope to have you listen on the next episode of In the Room with Garvin and George. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.